I'm Charlie Hart, and I'm going to talk to you today about how I grew into my weirdness over the years and why. So this is where my story begins. This is me and my brother looking really cool in our hand-knitted Disney jumpers with our handed-down coats and our homemade haircuts from our dear mother. Both of us are autistic. We both have ADHD. There's a huge difference between us, though. My brother has learning disabilities as well, so he was diagnosed when he was 10, and he went to special school. Yes, he was the special one. I was the gifted one with the weight of potential on my shoulders, so quite a different trajectory. I didn't know that I was autistic till I was 42. I didn't know I was ADHD until a few years after that, and I was actually only diagnosed ADHD last week. So I'm now a proud AuDHDer with a piece of paper to prove it that I've known for some time. So the next part of the story really is about the 1990s. Now, you might think it's quite cool to go to a school where there's no uniform and you can wear what you like. Well, as I mentioned before, me and my brother didn't have a lot of money. We come from quite a disadvantaged background. A lot of our clothes were handed down, some charity shop clothes, some homemade clothes, which meant that neither of us were good enough. In my school, which had no uniform, you were only acceptable as a human being if you had an Adidas or Fila shell suit. Yes, those really unflattering, crinkly things. A head bag, and some of the people wearing the shell suits could have done with the head bag to put over their heads, in my opinion, and Nike Air Max trainers. So me with my handed-down clothes. Yes, Mum, I know they're from Marks and Spencer's, but they're still not cool. But yeah, I appreciate not having to go to school in my pajamas or something, but yeah, you're really not doing me any favours here. So these kids, I'll call them the trendies. I've been known to use slightly less work-appropriate language to describe them, but I'll call them the trendies. They made my life hell. So this is me. Always a tomboy, never had cool clothes, but I also always had short hair. I was not into the things that girls were into, but I was into martial arts and football, and I was, let's say, not gender conforming. Eventually, in my mid-teens, I did learn how to use makeup and I grew my hair a little bit, but I never felt like one of the girls. And then I also got glasses, which apparently that's not okay as well. So not only did I not have a Fila shell suit, but also glasses. I did actually get a shell suit in the end, but it was from the market. And you can't win with these people, the trendies. Oh, Charlotte, oh, she's trying to be trendy now. She's got herself a shell suit, but it's not branded, it's off the market. Oh, and pushing me around, yeah. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me, they say. Well, that's a load of codswallop, isn't it? Yeah, I'm going to get over a bruise from a stick, but I'm not going to get over 1,000 cuts from all those cruel words. And these are some of the cruel words that I've had. So 4 eyes, yeah, every kid with glasses has been called 4 eyes at some point. No big deal. Rubber lips. So, yeah, I've got some quite full lips. The kids that saw that they were fuller than a typical lip thought that that was a reason to pick on me, which is really bizarre. Because at the time, I think Batman was out and Kim Basinger was in that film. And she's got a gorgeous pair of voluptuous lips. And the boys fancied her, but not me. Square is a bit of a weird one. I thought it meant goody two-shoes. I thought it was teacher's pet. And I rallied against this label. I didn't like it. I didn't see myself as being a good kid and doing as I'm told. I saw myself as being a rebel. And I thought that I needed to prove I wasn't a square. It's only years and years later that I realised that square means unfashionable and untrendy. But I wasted so much time trying to prove the bullies wrong. And my particular favourite, ugly. So little charmers, aren't they, that tell little girls that they're ugly. Yeah, this impacted me quite a lot. Basically, by neuronormative standards and fashion standards and everything else standards of normality, I wasn't good enough and I was rejected. And it didn't matter if people who loved me, people in my family told me I was beautiful and amazing, anything like that. All I could hear is the cruel words. So it impacted my self-esteem. I went to university then. I just about got through A-levels despite having ADHD that was undiagnosed. I went to university and massively fell off the rails. I was away from my safe spaces, my family, my best friend. The little safe spaces I had at school, like the biology club, where anyone that didn't feel safe in the playground because of the bullies, they went to the biology room at break time and lunchtime and fed the animals. So I'd go there and feed the snake and the tarantula and things like that, and I was safe. None of that at university. Suddenly, I was just like a little girl out of my depth and struggled to do little basic things that others took for granted, like joining the library, joining the computer room, figuring out how it all works. If I missed a couple of seminars, I wouldn't want to go back because I'd be crippled with social anxiety, wouldn't know who to sit by. So I started to flounder. I did no coursework. It didn't occur to me that if I passed all my exams, I still wouldn't get into the next year because I've failed on coursework. But meanwhile, this girl approached me in a pub and said, "I'm a model." She looked like Kate Moss, actually. And she said to me, "I think you could be as well." And that is how I ended up doing glamour modelling and stripograms and pole dancing. And this is something I haven't talked about for a really long time due to having a professional career in HR. Now I'm self-employed, I'm going to talk about it. It needs to be said. And a lot of people in that industry are autistic and or ADHD as well. So I was trying too hard, basically, looking for validation in all the wrong places and getting it as well. So I flunked university, but that's okay because loads of people wanted to take pictures of me and told me I was attractive and gorgeous. I had a boyfriend at the time, a control freak arsehole, I would call him, because I don't throw around the word narcissist without a diagnosis, but he was definitely a control freak arsehole. And he would say things to me to erode my self-esteem, like, "Oh, no women like you and men only hang around with you because they want to shag you." He was really charming. I call him Golden Graham in my book. He's the only character whose name hasn't been changed. So fast forward a few years, I eventually got a job in HR, and then I did eventually get some qualifications through Coventry Business School in the evening, because once I'd got a career I was interested in, I was then able to study. But then a few years later, and I had my firstborn child, and they say that children are like pancakes. The first one's always a bit weird. Well, that was definitely true of Iggy. So he sprung into the world 5 weeks early. He did everything unconventionally. When most babies are pulling themselves up on things to stand, he would reverse himself up things. When most babies were learning to crawl, he was bum shuffling at high speeds, always with one hand outstretched to grab things and throw them across the room, and the other hand he was using as an oar, and he would bum shuffle at top speed. When he was a bit older, it started to become obvious that he was physically different as well. He was extremely skinny and he was very hypermobile. So he was weird, yeah, weird and wonderful. I loved him to bits. This is him a bit older then. So in high school, he became extremely anxious because by this point he's 6 foot tall and still incredibly skinny. He's autistic, which is why I've got the international symbol for autism there, the chicken nugget. Apparently it's an invisible disability, but tell that to bullies. They don't think it's invisible. They can tell. They know we're autistic, or they know that there's some vulnerability that they can exploit, and we all get really mercilessly bullied. He was quite girly, and he was also LGBT. So the kids were so vile to him at school. One example, they used to say, "Oh, Iggy's weird. Oh, run away from Iggy. We don't want to catch his weird." So he was ostracized. he'd tell me that he wanted to disappear. He wanted to just wear black and not draw any attention to himself because he didn't want the bullies to notice him and pick on him, until eventually he disappeared completely. So now what I have left is a memory of a mischievous grin. Lots of memories, actually, and I do talk about him a lot. And because I'm weird, I process it in a weird way, so I paint about it, and it helps me to process my emotions. I carried on painting then, painted things that reminded me of him onto rocks, and then I started to paint neurodiversity-affirming rocks and LGBT-affirming rocks and hide them around. I'd retrace the steps of our walks, hiding these Iggy rocks. There's one here, this was the prototype Iggy rock that gave me the idea for that group. And the rainbow's inside out, and my daughter, Izzy, said, "Mum, don't change it. You've got that the wrong way around, but that's okay. It's just different." And Iggy was different, and different is okay. And that's where I got my hashtag, different is okay. This was Iggy's bedroom. It's now my office, and I've painted a countryside mural on it with a rainbow to remind me of him. I haven't moved house to try and forget, because I'm keeping the memories alive, and that's how I roll. And I'm now as weird as I like, and I don't care if the trendies would pick on me now, because I'm 48 and I just don't care anymore. My daughters are just as weird as me, and they love it. They're both autistic, they're both queer, they lean into that, they wear their LGBT status like a badge of honour. They would not want to be normies. So here we all are cosplaying at a cosplay con, which is quite weird and quite geeky, but who cares, we're happy. This is what I aspire to. This guy, Bill Bailey, he's very weird, but he's written a book about birds, which is one of my special interests too. And it's full of his own sketches and photos and his own jokes and observations and anecdotes. And nobody's picking on him and telling him that he's weird. They know he's weird, and that's why they love him, and that's what I aspire to. That's what I want for my kids. And that's why I support Weird Pride Day. This has been going for 4 years. This is the 4th Weird Pride Day. And it's a time when weirdos like myself can say, "Screw you, normative bullies. I'm weird, I'm here, I'm queer. Get used to it. I'm not going anywhere." And I've just got this quote from Maya Angelou, which really brings it into sharp relief for me. "If you're always trying to be normal, you will never know how amazing you can be." I've been Charlie Hart, also known as Awesome Charlie with an AU for autistic. I'm a queer AuDHDer, and I also have CPTSD.